Vivi, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you here today. I'm so excited. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Brad? I'm very excited to be here as well.
Yeah, I'm excited because we were just talking a little bit off camera, and you're living the van lifestyle, and I'm living the RV lifestyle, and we've got very similar passions and lifestyles. And your journey is very similar to mine in the fact that you were working a corporate job, 9 to 5. And why don't we just start there? Tell us what happened. You were working 9 to 5, and something wasn't right, and all of a sudden you discovered your passion and your freedom, and now you're living this incredible life. And I see you're smiling and you're happy. So do tell, what are the secrets?
The secret is just follow your heart. I think that's
Yeah.
that's my biggest secret. But yeah, so I had a normal life just like everyone else. Before I started my van life, I was working in a hospital as a clinical engineer in Boston after I graduated from my grad school. Because that's all you really know, right? You are taught since you were young that you have to go to school, graduate, get a job, get
Mhm.
married, buy a
Yep.
house, have kids, and all of that. And I was following that path really strictly, of course. And for me, I am a Vietnamese. At that time, when I was working in Boston, I was on a visa basis. I was on H-1B visa because I came to the US as a student. I came as an exchange student and then I switched my visa to international student. So obviously, I had to follow the visa path, and my employment uh, dictates my visa, which means if I lose my employment, I would lose my visa and my right to stay in the country.
Okay.
And I came to the US when I was very young, at 17. So I came for high school. So at the time that I was working in Boston, that was already 12 years of living and working in the US. So I was very attached to the country. I loved the place. I love Boston so much. So I did everything that I could to hold on to the place and the dream. And that was like the American dream for me. And so it was, I pushed myself to chase on the status, to keep working harder, to please other people. It was one of the reasons why I decided to go to grad school. So I make myself more um, attractive to employers,
Mhm.
because it's to get an H-1B visa is not really easy. You have to be very competitive and you have to be on the top of the top. If you're not familiar with it, like there's millions of people apply for H-1B visa, and there's only a very small amount that the government issues within the year, and there's a bracket within the months of the year that you can only apply for it. So it was extremely competitive. So if I get a job offer that sponsor an H-1B visa, I was like, I it's already hard enough. So you don't really have a choice to choose. So this is the employer that you have to work with, and if you don't like them, then you can switch. If you it's not like with American, you can switch employment like whenever, and if you don't like them, then you just go to the next one.
Right.
But here, for in my situation, if it doesn't work out, I would lose my visa and I would have to go back home immediately. There's no grace period, so I work. That was the reason why I had to work really hard, and I pushed myself to the ground and have to uh, uh, bend my head in order to please other people, because I was so afraid being kicked off and leave the country.
Well,
So
Vivi,
at the
real quick, let me ask you. So, how were you feeling during this time? Were you burnt out, stressed out, not feeling like you were in alignment, or?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay.
burnt out all the time, and I was stressed and depressed. I had to go to a social worker and to like had her check on me. And I feel like I had to carry a rock on my shoulder, and I had like a back pain, a chronic back pain during that time, because I was just too afraid, too afraid to leave the country. And now I'm just like, oh, I'm so happy that I left, you know?
So what happened? You eventually did have to leave the country and go back to Vietnam.
Yeah,
So kind of what
yeah,
happened there, and how did you get towards this van life then?
I just couldn't stand the pressure, and eventually the employment didn't work out, obviously. So I was forced to leave, and I couldn't stand the idea of going back home to Vietnam and face my family with shame, because they had a lot of expectation on me, because I was the only kid in the family that have the highest degree, and the only one that in engineering, and is everyone has high hope for me. And so when I was going back home with nothing, I feel like a failure, and I felt like too much shame, and I just couldn't hold my head up and really look at anyone in the eye. So I just keep distance from everyone, and I didn't talk to anyone. It was probably one of the hardest time in my life, because I felt like I was in the dark abyss of my life, and I just couldn't do with the fear of failure and the fear of the unknown, and what is going to happen now that I lose everything that I built up for over a decade in the US. So during that time, I also stumbled upon the book The Alchemist, because I was kind of searching for the question in my life, like, why do I exist, and why do I have to go through all of this, and what's my purpose, like why I'm here, and why do I have to suffer so much, and why do I have to be born to be a Vietnamese, and I had to face all this, you know, uh all this mess. And I was like, if I could have been born in America, life would have been so much easier for me. So I blame a lot on my own heritage, for all the trouble that I was going through, and I blame for life was to be so unfair to me. Why did you take me to America and now bring me back to Vietnam?
So what did you
So
what did you come up with in terms of answers, and how did you slowly, how long were you in Vietnam, and then you came back to Canada, and how did this whole van life come up then?
I went back to Vietnam for about 2 years, and I started to apply for immigration to Canada, because during that time in Asia, I was traveling. I started doing solo traveling. It was a way for me to escape my family and the reality that I didn't want to deal with. So traveling was a way for me to first escape, then gather myself back from all the different places, all the different pieces that was torn apart. And that was how I started to really fall in love with traveling. And it's reaffirmed my passion for wanted to be a nomad, because when I was in Boston, I actually met a friend who was an actual nomad. Means he was traveling for 7 years, hopping from countries to countries around the world, and it was so fascinating. And I was like, this is what I wanted to do and to be as well, because I love traveling ever since I was a kid. But because I got so focused on work and studying, and over the years, I kind of forgot that, even though in the back of my mind, I was like, if I could have had the green card, if I could have had like the US citizenship, maybe I can travel around the world, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So green card was like my symbol of freedom, because I wanted to have that level of freedom that my country's citizenship didn't offer, because traveling in Southeast Asia was all I could do. Because for me, being a Vietnamese, if I want to travel around the world, everywhere I go, I have to uh, ask for visa.
yeah.
I have to go do the visa application process, and it's very tricky. It's also very expensive and time consuming. Like there's no way I can do it like my friend, just hopping from one country to the next. He just basically go on Google and on the map, and he just like, what country should I go next week?
Yeah, that's nice. That would be nice. So you eventually
Yeah.
you applied to Canada. You got, I guess, a work visa to go to Canada, and then you landed in Canada. And what, you found just another 9 to 5 job, or?
So when I applied for Canada, I knew that they actually get me a permanent residence. Uh, Luckily, all the work that I did in the US, on the record I did in US, didn't go to waste, because it helps me a lot with the application process to immigration to Canada. So when I was planning my life in Canada, I was like, this is my second chance. I don't want to mess it up like I was in the US. So I wanted to do something else differently, and I was exploring different lifestyle, and I was very into minimalism because I love traveling. So, when you travel, the smaller your suitcase, the lighter your stuff, the easier for you to move
Yes,
around.
yes.
So,
I know that. Yes.
so I was into tiny houses, and that's how I discovered the van life community. And the more I researched into it, the more it seemed to be suitable for me, and especially because I have my dog as well. Um, whom I adopted from Vietnam. And I just thought that it would be great if we could have our own place. And it's not a big investment like a tiny house or buying a condo or an apartment. So, and because I love traveling, so it seemed to match everything that I was looking for. So when I got to Vancouver, BC, I gave myself 3 months to find a van, and exactly within 3 months, I moved into my van.
Ah,
Talk about manifestation.
and so you felt before, like, in Boston, whatnot, you were kind of out of alignment, and then all of a sudden this van life, you felt more in alignment, I guess, with your, I guess, what would you call it, your purpose? Or you talk about this idea of freedom. Is that what you mean?
Yes, because I wanted um, to be myself, to be free, and to really get to know me. And I think that's probably the biggest reason that I wanted to go with van life, because in the beginning, I was thinking that if I can cut down my living expenses, then I don't have to work full time, and I can use that extra amount of time to just do what I love, what to just follow my interest and my passion, and hopefully I can understand clearer my path, and what I'm meant to do in this life, because I was clueless. I just knew that I didn't want to go back to be an engineer anymore. So it's now the world is your oyster. So there are
Yeah.
too many options. So how do you pick? And so I just allow myself to follow my passion, my interest, and just go with my heart and whatever my heart tell me. And so that's what I did in Vancouver, and whatever intrigued me, I go and I kind of just figure it out whether it's suitable for me, whether this could be on long term. And I was very interested in coffee. So I applied to be a barista because I was thinking maybe I could be, I could have my own coffee shop one day. But that didn't turn out to be, um, it didn't feel like it was good enough for me. Always feel like there's something more that I needed to explore. Even though the job was fun, it led me to something else, and I thought that maybe this is it. Maybe I can do this in longer term, but it just kept telling me that normal jobs, like, it's not suitable for me. Like, you have to go do something else. So entrepreneur is always in the back of my mind. And I was like, maybe I should pursue this. I should let go of, really completely let go of the corporate, even if full-time, part-time, even a contract, whatever. I have to go find my own path. And that's exactly what I did during the pandemic, because I just didn't feel fulfilled, even though I loved the job. I I was passionate about coffee, and everything worked out perfectly for me. And I had great coworkers. I have great and manager, and the job was super fun. Everything was working well. So why wasn't I happy?
Yeah, so why weren't you happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had you loved your job, you had great coworkers, yeah, why weren't you happy then?
Yeah, it just didn't feel like fulfilled. There was something more. I just knew that I wanted to do something meaningful, something that is impactful. And I didn't have that in my previous job. But it taught me a lesson that if I just follow my interest, to follow my passion, it's a lot better than my engineering job.
Uh,
So I
and well, here, real quick,
it's give me a
here's,
sign.
yeah, real quick, here's
Mm.
the catch 22. So the engineering job obviously probably paid a lot more and had benefits, and society says, oh, that's a really good prestigious job. I mean, I'll let folks know that you have a master's degree in biomedical engineering. That's pretty good. You're a very, very smart woman. So how did you, well, I guess let me ask first. So you were following your passion. Were you ever afraid? Did you ever have doubts? Did you get scared? How were you able to overcome that and keep going? And did you ever want to go back to just getting a 9 to 5 professional career type job, or?
I always have doubt.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's impossible not to, but I think you just have to deal with it and uh, move forward. It just keep moving forward with. I don't know. I get my intuition, what it's telling me to do. Going back to 9 to 5 job, definitely no.
mm,
Even though I know being an entrepreneur, you don't just work 9 to 5, you work
no, you
24
don't.
hours.
Dude, I'm learning that very quickly. Yeah, it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. Yeah, it's
It's a
significantly
lot.
harder, but more fulfilling. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like so much more alive with where I am now and who I have become, because I love this version of me a lot more than the person that I was, even though every step of the way that I go forward, there's always something that scare me. And of course, I would have to stop and, look at it, examine it. And of course, there's doubt in my mind, but learning what I learned and going through the process that I went through, I had tools and ways that I do to deal with all that fear and doubts. And I think that I have overcome quite a lot of fears in my life already. and make myself more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes,
So
that's key.
that's yeah. So that's the reason this lifestyle has taught me to grow so much, because with van life you have to deal with unknown circumstances all the time, if not like every day. um
Vivi, let me ask you a couple questions from your profile on Podmatch. There were some really good things there. Then I want to get into your book a little bit, but in your profile, you talk about this idea of living your authentic self. What do you mean by that? And I guess, how do you do that?
for me, how I did that was just really follow my heart. Follow, like I take every step and just let that unfold along the way. And I started with just my passion, my interest, what I'm curious about, and I really, and that, which was the van life in the beginning, and that helps me to understand myself more. The more I get to know who I am, the more I feel authentic with myself. Because I think the person that I was, even though I thought I was authentic with myself, but I didn't really know who I was. I felt completely lost in my life. So that's why, even though at the time I maybe feel authentic, but I wasn't really authentic with myself, because I didn't feel like more aligned with who I am, you know. So living authentic mean you have to know yourself first,
Mm.
so that you can be more aligned with your soul, your higher purpose, and the universe. And I think that would be more authentic. And the way that I started doing that was just following my heart, and that was the biggest key and the biggest lesson in my life.
And I think it's key you did that, even though society would say to do the opposite. And even though from your background coming from Vietnam, which has very strong, I've been to Vietnam, I've spent time there. I lived in Southeast Asia for many years, so I know the culture. That's a very strongly rooted family that you were saying puts a lot of pressure on you for that professional career, 9 to 5 job. So you kind of ignored all of that and just listened to your heart. And that's kind of one of the real true secrets, would you say?
Yeah, it wasn't easy for me to do that in the beginning, obviously, but after my biggest failure, I just shut down all the noises, and I was just like, no, I have to listen to myself now, because I couldn't stand on the pressure anymore. I think at some point I was just like, enough is enough, and I was just hitting the ceiling, and I just couldn't follow that path anymore.
I think that's huge. Yeah, you just said it. You have to listen to yourself, and you kind of have to, and I'm learning to do the same right now. You have to drown out the noises of even family or society to live that truly authentic and fulfilled life. Let me ask you another question. So we're going to start to get more into the book here, but you talk about this transformational journey of freedom. Explain a little bit more about exactly what that means. So would you say that you are free now, or what is freedom, or?
Um, so what is freedom? To me, freedom is so much bigger than just, yeah, I'm free to do what I do. It's like an ultimate freedom to uh to the ascension process, really. And am I completely free? I think that I'm on the process, and it's like an expansion process. So it's just never end.
Mhm.
Just like the universe is expand and is contract, and my whole life I've always feel trapped. It's probably the reason why I put myself in the situation to feel trapped, because I always feel trapped in my mind.
No.
So that's why I always wanted to be free. But how I obtained my freedom back then was just following the ranking in the society, in the status to achieve better degrees and getting higher pay job and pleasing other people to get to that, you know, level of freedom. But that didn't work, obviously, because that was a materialistic mindset, like 3D mindset, to get to that freedom. And the more I was on that path, the more I felt trapped. It was the reason why I decided to leave the US, because I just feel like whatever I do, I always feel trapped, and there was no, to the point that there was no way out for me anymore. So I had to let that idea go, and I had to change, to switch myself to a different mindset. And it was, maybe I had the advantage because I was at the blank slate, where I felt like I didn't have anything to lose. So I chose to do things differently, by living a different lifestyle. And that helps me to understand a bit more what freedom really is. And it set me on a completely different journey that I didn't expect. And the more I go further along to this journey, I realized the freedom that I had in my mind, that was actually not freedom. So until I let go of that idea and allow myself just to follow the unknown, and just let it guide me, then it's actually show me what freedom really means. And I can say that I am a lot more free now, living my lifestyle and where I am and what I do, compared to what I had before. Even though I don't have a nice, fancy 1-bedroom apartment like I used to have in Boston, but I am so much happier now. And for me, that is actually a huge success, because I have let go of that trap to achieve what I achieve now. And I feel more at ease within myself. I feel so much more online. And of course, I feel a lot more free. So when people come to me, and I have this all the time, people always come to me and ask me about van life. Um, and they say, I want to be free like you, but I can't, because I
Right,
have families and I have
right.
jobs and I have partners. I can't let go of it. Like how do I do that, B?
Yeah. So what do
um,
you tell them? That was going to be what my next question actually. How do you do that if you've got a family and all that?
well, you know, in the practical answer, there's a way for you to compromise to still travel and live this lifestyle and have time for yourself. And in another time, which I call a seasonal van life, in couple months of the year, you can stay in put and spend time with your family, and your partners and so on. For me, because I didn't have family here in Canada, however, I did leave my family in Vietnam to pursue this lifestyle in a whole different country. I can still be in touch with them remotely. I just have to know um, what is my value, because for some people they may value family first, or they may value comfort and luxury, and this lifestyle may not offer them that. And if you go into this lifestyle, you may struggle because you're going to go against your value. But I always know my biggest value is freedom. So when I go with this lifestyle, I feel more aligned with my value, and it's the reason why it keep me going and how much I actually enjoy myself. And for others, they if they not align with their value, it may be more difficult for them to actually enjoy the lifestyle because they always feel like being pulled back to a different value that they may have missed.
Yeah, so I think anyone listening, the important point to take home here is it's not so much the lifestyle, rather it's following the values. So if your values take you down the path of minimalism and van life, then that's for you. If it takes you down the path of, I don't know, 15,000 square foot mansion, maybe that's the path for you. I like the word you use, freedom. The word I use, now that I hear you and listen to you more, the word I use is adventure. That's
Mm.
my value. And so RV living, camping, recreation, that brings that sense of adventure to me. Let's get into your book for just a moment, Vivi. So Vivi is the author. The name of her book is Living Through Alchemy, A Transformational Journey to Freedom. Talk a little bit about your book. So what's it all about and why did you write it?
So the book is about my whole life journey up until last year.
Okay.
uh, that was when I actually discovered alchemy and what it really meant to me, because that opened up my perception and my understanding about life. And I just thought that people need to know this ancient knowledge. It's it was life changing for me, because when I was able to understand my life path, I was able to understand uh, more about who I am and where I'm going and what I want to do with my life further down the road. And not just that, the more I understand the journey, it helps me to be more compassionate with everything that I went through, and it was so much easier for me to forgive people that hurt me or people that I blame that wronged me. So having the awareness is key, and understanding that all the challenges or the struggles that you have to go through, it may be just a challenge that help you to grow, and it may just be an alchemical process, and that you would have to go through this pressure so that you can transform and be a better person, and be closer to your higher self, because alchemy is all about transformation and transmutation. The
Good word,
ma-
transformation.
yeah, the the concept of alchemy is about turning lead into gold. So that's the metaphor. Lead is the representation of your heavier self, of your uh, the body or the self that carries so much indoctrination, negative beliefs, everything that makes you feel heavy in the mind and in the body. So alchemy would have to happen. And how do you transform lead into gold? It has to go, you have to burn it down and douse it into water and separate the material. So it's a very harsh process, right? So it's not easy. So of course you would have to go through a lot of pain, a lot of struggle, a lot of hardship. But through that process, it removes the impurity and it makes you lighter. So that's how you turn yourself into gold. So that's why gold is precious. And that's representation of your higher self, your lighter body. And the lighter we are, the easier for us to fly like the butterfly.
Yeah, that's very
Um,
true. Lighter in terms of like less stress, less baggage, less worries, that type of thing. Let me ask you sort of one final question here, Vivi. You've kind of talked a lot about this already, and maybe we can just summarize everything we've said today and talked about with this final question. But what does it take to truly live a fulfilled life of happiness?
what does it take to have a fulfilled life? For me, uh, there's several things. First of all, again, I will have to say following the heart is always the key, and keeping yourself in balance. I think uh, for minimalism, it's actually all about balance. Get rid of things that you don't need so you have more room for what you may need, and that keeps you in check all the time for being in balance. So for me, I think that would be the key. Just do what I love and just follow my passion and allow it to guide me where I need to be for my highest good. Because I think that we do have limitation in our mind, even though we want to manifest for whatever that is best for us. But the limitation that we have, we may not know that there's something better. And so when we open ourselves to let the universe just guide us, it may lead us to a much better path than what we could ever imagine. And I think that's really my case, because when I left the US, I did not really imagine the van lifestyle, but because I was open to it and I was able to let go. So now it led me here, because for me, nomadic life was like being like my friend who was hopping from country to country, but there's a completely different nomadic lifestyle. And now living this van lifestyle, I just completely in awe. It's like a whole lot better than what I was actually imagined. So open yourself, follow your passion, and just open yourself to receive and let the universe to guide you. Yes, there's certain things that you can manifest, but I don't put myself to be so rigid and structured. This is exactly what it have to be, but at the same time, you need to be flexible like water and just receive whatever that come to you for your highest good. And yeah, and to for me, in order to stay healthy and to keep uh, myself in check, I always sometimes have to purge my stuff because it's a small space. And it's also helped me to remind myself that there's things that I need to let go physically, also things that I need to let go in my mind as well, whatever that is unhealthy. So that's that's what I do.
You just summed all that up very beautifully. Vivi, if someone wants to get in touch with you or get a hold of your book, how can they do that?
I do have a website. It's called livingthroughalchemy.com. That's also the title of my book as well. So everyone can go check out my website and download the first chapter for free. And I am also active on social media. My Instagram handle is smileyvv05. That's smiley face, VIVI05. And I also have a YouTube channel. It's called Personal Growth Through Van Life. It's where I share a little bit about my van life journey and my life lesson in general. Because of course, I'm always passionate about personal development, personal growth, and spirituality. So I share a lot of that on my YouTube channel as well.
Very good. And I will put links to all of that in the podcast show notes for your website. And I'll put a link to Amazon for your book and all that. And then, of course, all your social media handles. Vivi, this has been, I have goosebumps. I love being able to meet people like you and talk to people like you. I've learned a ton today. And for everyone listening, I want to say thank you very much for being here and listening today. I know there's a ton of podcasts out there, so I definitely appreciate you tuning into the Be Well, Be Safe, Be Happy, Eat Ice Cream podcast. And if you are listening, please do me a solid favor. Hit that subscribe button. Leave me a 5-star review. I would very much appreciate it. This is some good stuff right here. Vivi has got literally the secrets of life figured out, so to speak. It's not necessarily about that 9-to-5 job, but more about following what's in your heart. And the more of us are starting to figure that out and to actually do that, and you see we're smiling, we're happy, we're laughing, we're not stressed out, we're not burned out like the typical noise that society makes about getting the job. Again, go to livingthroughalchemy.com. That's where you can reach Vivi. And also, please, again, hit that subscribe button and leave me that 5-star review. I would sure appreciate it. Thank you so much again for listening. And until next time, this is Coach Brad. As I always say, be well, be safe, be happy, eat ice cream. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.